Today's podcast, I am so excited to share with you guys. We have such a treat with Victoria Rader from Quantum Personal Development. We had a little bit of technical difficulties on this podcast. I had a mic issue and it didn't pick up any of my sounds. So if it sounds a little meshed together, that is why. But I'm really excited to share this podcast with you. Victoria shared her insights on the law of creation and its key parts. So awareness, alignment, action, abundance. We explored how to use the universal laws for personal growth and to manifest anything that you want, any desired reality. We also discussed the balance between fear and desire, the power of magnetism, and the art of giving and receiving. This episode is full of practical tips, like get your notebook out. It is so inspiring and so incredible. And this will just align your energy with your goals. It's going to help you recognize and overcome your blocks while also embracing abundance. Victoria and I look forward to guiding you on this inspiring journey of self-mastery. We'll show you how to tap into these universal laws and create a life full of purpose and passion. Hi, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today. I know you love all things subconscious mind, coaching. You have something called the SMT that really helps people elevate their business to their next level. I am just so excited to hear all the goods about what you do, how you show up, and how you serve. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
It's exciting to be here with you today, Karen. Just even the pre-talk we had and stuff like that. I'm excited for a really good conversation.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's dive into a little bit of the subconscious mind, if you're open to it. And I know you have you have a scientifically backed SMT methodology, and I can't wait to hear about it. But I want to know what it is, number one, and how did you come up with this method? Like, what happened that you were like, okay, I have to create this because I need something to change?
I kind of wish it was something like that because that would have been easier. But it was really growing up in Detroit, Michigan, in a struggling blue collar family and barely getting by and seeing my parents really beating themselves up and stuff, trying to raise us five kids, keep food in the table and roof over our head and stuff like that. And I picked up on those same things. And in my 20s, I started realizing things like if something came easy to me, I felt I didn't deserve it because I didn't work hard enough for it. And I would literally let those things pass me by and not take advantage of them. And that started out, that and a couple other things happening like accumulated that whole thing. And it's like, man, I'm wrong. There's something about me that's not right. And I became a student of the works I do today. So it's been like 3 decades plus that I've been a student of these works and such. And I've really been the guinea pig of the entire SMT method because I just set out on this pathway that I felt something in my heart told me I didn't have to live the way my parents did. But everything inside of me lent me to repeat those same patterns, those same behaviors that they lived through. And I couldn't figure out what that was. And on that journey, trying multiple avenues for years of things and trying things like, The Secret and such, when that came out way back in the day. And I had the VHS because I'm that old. And then I had a study book and something else I got for it and stuff. And I dove into anything I could come up across to try to change that. And I felt better, but my results didn't change. And then I got into corporate America and I never wanted to be in sales. And I got hired into a company and then they moved me very quickly into sales based on my personality tests and stuff. And I struggled for years trying to make a mark in sales. And I'd see these people that were landing these huge contracts over and over and over. And here I find myself traveling 3,000 to 5,000 miles a week, every week, and adding minimal to the revenue channel based on what I was bringing in. I just, again, continued to try to figure out why and stuff like that. So then I would try coaching programs and and different, self-study books, self-study programs. I would take books, Karen, and literally make an experience. Like I'd read through them one time, and then I'd start making experiments out of it and trying to do it. And I felt better. I learned a lot, but it never changed my results. And then I stumbled upon some books that talked about the subconscious mind and what that is and how it works and that's what triggers our brain waves to the actions we take or don't take and things like that. So, so I started looking more into that. And then as I looked deeper into it, I started realizing I'm not the guy to pick out my programming because I don't know it. I learned that we live through that programming unconsciously. So we're not even aware that we're living through that. So then I started leaning into people who specialize in that area that could help me. And within a couple years of there, I started seeing dramatic changes in my life. I started going from the 3 to 5,000 miles a week and landing, minimal results to landing contracts at $18 million, $22 million. The largest I've ever received was a $25 million year-over-year contract that overnight took an organization from a 50 to a $75 million organization. So then, as I started understanding these principles and started utilizing them in my own life and started seeing really huge changes beyond what I even expected. Then I started getting promoted up the lines of corporate America up to a vice president of sales, and I would utilize those tools in no organized fashion with my sales teams, and I could start seeing my sales team, the people in that middle, start elevating up to top producers within my team. And then later on, I helped organizations. And now I'm starting to understand this stuff and everything. So now I'm starting to go outside of my company and help people and start doing this. And I have multiple certifications into the coaching and the different avenues and subconscious mindset and things like that. And then as I started, more people started coming to me. It was like they started showing up. Hey, I heard what you did here. Or somebody that was on my team that elevated. I found somebody, knew somebody, and then they came to me and stuff. And in that process, the SMT method was formed without my permission. Like it just came about as a result into what what the way it's like the way it exists today. It just, the whole thing kind of unfolded into that. And then I got to a point of going, man, to be a vice president of sales, you have to lead your sales team. But you also have to do the forecasting. You have to know your competition. You have to figure out new markets. You have to figure out open areas in the market. And it's so much stuff. And I didn't care so much about that stuff. My passion was helping people elevate their life. And so at one point, I just resigned and I walked away and I started I have, my company, IFGT Coaching Consulting. And since then, I've just been building it up and it's growing and people are coming. And I mean, the results people are having are even way beyond what I achieved through it. And it's so amazing to see those doorway open.
Wow, what an incredible story. I want to unpack a couple of things that you said there because I think everyone listening is like, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
who doesn't want to scale and make more sales and feel confident in what they're doing and how they're doing it? A couple of things I heard was um, the awareness, right? It's like we're so programmed from right 0 to 7, right? That's our childhood programming. We're so programmed that anything after 7 years old is kind of what is projected into our adult life and how we run our programming. So with that programming, you said you recognized a bunch of patterns that kept happening. And I want to dive a little deeper into
Yeah.
those patterns and how did you actually figure out the pattern? Because all of us have patterns, but the first step is awareness, right? It's how are we? What is the awareness? A lot. There's 3 stages, right? There's I don't have any blocks. I'm fine. My life, good to go. Second is oh my God, I have so many blocks. I can't, like, what am I going to do? And the third thing is, how can I use these blocks in order to move forward and move the needle in my life or business? So I'm curious, okay, how did you discover the pattern? Like, what was the pattern? And then what did you do to actually change that pattern before we get
Yeah.
into your methodology?
No, no, no. That's, yeah, no, that's great. And there's actually a fourth block.
Okay.
The fourth block is I can't seem to get where I want to go. So it has to be the outside influences. It has to be the state of the economy. It has to be that money's tight. It has to be competition. It has to be these things where we become like a victim of the life we're living and we don't have any control there. That's the fourth one.
Yeah, just outsourcing blame to everyone else but you.
Yeah.
I
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely love that. Yes.
Yes. So that's the fourth one. And most of the time we can't identify our blocks. I started working with a guy probably about 8, 9 years ago now. And we were talking about this. He goes, I don't have any blocks. I don't have anything like that. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah. So just off the top of my head, I go, okay, here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow morning when you're showering, I want you to take your shampoo and I want you to lather it 12 times and then be done and rinse. Karen, he called me the next day and he called me a bad word. And he said I couldn't do it. I stopped at 12. I started to rinse and it just drove me crazy. I had to do my normal pattern on that. And we have these patterns. We have this programming within us. It's not our fault. If you were raised by my parents, you have different programming than if you're, like Donald Trump's children. You know what I mean? There's just different programming there and stuff. But we have the programming we have, and it's not our fault. But that programming runs so much more of our lives than we give it credit to. So the whole SMT method is geared to start right from day one, start bumping up against that programming so we can identify it. And then it has the tools to quickly shift that to open up the doors immediately then to greater possibilities, greater potential, greater opportunities to start experiencing in our life.
Amazing. Okay, so take me through this. Well, this sometimes is true for me. Imposter syndrome, right? This is a block that I've been nourishing myself, self-compassion, all the things, right? So let's say I I want to go through two different ways. One where you're like, I don't know I have any blocks, which I know you touched on with the guy in the taking a
Mm-hmm.
shower. But for the people who are like, God, I know that I have self-doubt. I know that I have imposter syndrome. I know I have these things holding me back. What is like, take me through this method with something similar to like an internal block versus the external block.
Sure, sure. So, like right now, the syndrome you talked about, the very first thing we do is we set that aside. We don't attack that. We set that aside. And then we start developing what the SMT method calls a dynamic vision for what do you want life to be like. If you're a business owner, what do you want to grow your business to be like? And then aside from that, what's it like living that life at that business at that side? How does that impact all areas of your life? And we go across the board because it's never about just the size of the business. It's about the impact of how we see life. So we capture all of that. Well, we capture that, we start bumping up against that programming. The things that go like, oh, come on, who do you think you are? You don't deserve that, or you're not worthy of that, or there's no way that's going to happen in your. And we start bumping up against that stuff so we can identify it. And then, like I said, utilize the tools to shift that and then open up the door. Once we have the vision, this is key because once we have the vision, instead of living by our situations, our circumstances, and our conditions that pop up, that a lot of times will cause us to just, go overload trying to solve all the time, they become like speed bumps because we're coming from the point of the vision and these situations and circumstances are just what it looks like as that vision is unfolding. So we're redefining that. Ultimately, what we have to do is we want to change our results. The only way we can change our results is we have to change our perceptions. The only true way to permanently change our perceptions is we have to shift that programming. As we shift the programming, it shifts our perceptions, which allows us to experience different results, greater results.
Change
And
the
then it
relationship with the block, and the block changes.
replace the block with a more powerful programming.
Can I challenge you on that?
I'd love for you to.
Okay. So I think, in my biased opinion, that blocks are actually here to serve us in a way, right?
Beautiful.
It's okay. So if I have self-doubt or imposter syndrome, right, there's a fear that's usually mixed with it. And so it's like, oh my God, if I am seen and I put myself out there, I might be rejected. So it's in a way, the block or the pattern is trying to serve us. And I look at it as not necessarily trying to replace it or get rid of it, but using it as a stepping stone to really get to the vision and get to the dream that we fully desire. Why? Why do we want the dream? We want the dream because we want to feel a certain way. It's money. Money is just like, right? We're all chasing money. Like, let's be real. Money, it's not the money that brings us happiness. It's what money gives us, the freedom, the control, the the peace,
Yeah.
right? All becomes this inner, we're all chasing this inner feeling. So my thoughts are not necessarily get rid of the block, acknowledge it, acknowledge, oh, imposter syndrome, oh, self-doubt, you're here? Okay, let's just presence you and let all parts of you be here with us now and nourish that part and learn how to use it. Oh, you're just trying to keep me safe, right? We all want safety, freedom, control, love, right? Those
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
of our deeper desires.
Yeah. We're not arguing this point because we're coming from the same place.
Yeah.
So remember what I said is the SMT method is geared so we bump up against that programming that's causing limitation, causing whatever it is we don't want, things like that, right? As we identify that programming, another way I talk about this with and work with this with my clients is we have to, the discontent, the only purpose of the discontent. It's not to hold us down, it's not to keep us from, it's not to do any of that stuff. The purpose of it is to help us grow into that other side. We feel bothered and things like that for the things happening like that, right? And so when we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then we're ready to do something about it. Now all of a sudden, the emotional energy in that discontent is really what charges us up to go the other side. So what we look at is, that so kind of combining the two, right? We identify the pattern of what's going on, and then we shift that pattern, and really what we're doing is we're taking from the discontent and looking at what do we want. You mentioned that about, let's be real, everyone's chasing money. I got to be totally honest with you and tell you, I don't chase money, it chases me now. My clients
Love
don't
that.
chase money, it chases them now. So there is that other side. But here's one of the things. Remember, we talked about the three patterns, and I put the fourth one in: the person who's a victim that blames the outside situation. And I don't mean it like a disrespectful thing about that or anything. It just is. We're blaming things outside of our own control, which means we don't have any control in it. Some of those people will get so embedded in that outside situations. For a long time, I was like, man, this is where I grew up, so this is my lot in life. I guess my life is I'm going to work with my hands, like all my teachers told me, instead of my head. But I was able to break through that stuff. But for a long time, I bought into that programming, and that was my truth. And nobody could do anything about that. So when I meet a client that's in that place of that victim and the outside situations, sometimes people are so ingrained in there, I can't help them. What I can do, though, is somebody who's in that place that I say, could there be a way for you to achieve more of the results of what you want? If they say yes to that, then I can help that person. But somebody that says, nope, not unless the economy changes, not unless something outside me, whatever it is happens, I can't do anything for that person. So I always talk to people about beginner mindset and stuff, and I won't go into that. But yeah, you and I are saying the same thing. There's power in our discontents, and that power is to help us go to that other side of what do we want. But what happens is our programming is so instilled within us, and it happens unconsciously. We just live by it, and so we don't ever challenge that. We just feel like that's our lot in life. Or we hear people talk all the time. Anytime I get extra money, something comes up to take it, and they experience that in their life. They don't have to, but that programming sets it, and then they follow that. So that's what they continue to repeat seeing in their life.
It's true. It's like we create this financial like just jumping around a little bit, we create this financial thermostat of, okay, this is like my programming, this is my comfort zone. And okay, if I had a phenomenal month this month,
Yes.
then that next month I have to do less. So that way it's an unconscious programming, but it's like we want to stick to this financial thermostat. So it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, let's have the vision, right, of having the higher financial thermostat or anything. It doesn't have to be financial, it could
Right.
be anything you
It's
want
a
in
good
your
one to
life,
use
right?
though.
Right. So it's like, oh, okay, wait, how do I go and raise the actual thermostat versus like jumping around so it just keeps going in that middle level or at that thermostat. So let's touch on that. Like I
Okay. Yeah.
I want to raise my thermostat. Ready,
Yeah.
go.
And the way we do that is developing that dynamic vision. Because when any of my clients that I've had are developing that vision, I had a client who was at 13-year high, $7.5 million revenue a year, sales, whatever, a year. They came to me and they said, I really want to go to $10 million, but it scares me. And there's all the different fears. There's the fears of having to hire people. There's the fears of this, fears of that, and everything else. So I helped them stretch that vision to $12.5 million from 10.5, and that scared the heck out of them because we don't know who we're going to be at $12.5 million. But when we have that vision and we start outlining that and opening up to that, then we start seeing ourselves in that position, living that life. So right there is the door opener to it. That person within 12 months, Karen, went from 7.5 to over $22 million in sales and has been maintaining that for 7, 8 years now at that level, right around that level and stuff. So but they'll tell you today, I didn't think there was any way possible I'd ever get even to that, to the 12.5. I didn't think it was impossible. But as we start building that vision, as we start putting that vision in, as we start living that life, all of a sudden we start seeing those things showing up for the opportunities to grow from where we are. And as that's happening, although rapid, we start seeing ourselves in that place before it happens, which allows it to open up even quicker. So every client I work with, they talk about whether I talk to people that $300,000 want to go to $3 million, and we start talking about that $3 million, and they go, I don't even think I want to do that. And I go, why? I go, I don't know. I just can't see myself being at $3 million a year revenue. I don't know. I can't see that life and everything. And so what happens a lot of times is we shut that down and we live on scraps of what's really possible for us because of that fear you talked about. So
That fear of success.
what I do is help them start putting that vision together and putting that out where they start seeing themselves more and more living that life. As we start doing that, all of a sudden they start having these breakthroughs and things. They start having these opportunities show up out of, people call it out of the blue, coincidence, whatever they call it and stuff like that. And they just start showing up to align with that, because ultimately what we're doing is we're taking the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, our total mindset, and we're getting it into alignment with what we want to achieve and experience in this lifetime.
Beautiful. The way I like to look at it too, just another frame of it is, who do you be at the $10 million revenue, right? Who are you? How are you showing up in your life?
Yes.
If you're making $10 million, what are you doing? What are you wearing? How are you breathing? How are you with your kids? What does your schedule look like? And you start
What kind of things do you
insourcing.
read, watch on TV, all of it? Yes.
Yeah, and you start it, but not only like imagining how you like what you're doing at that level is insourcing the feeling. What does it feel like to wake up and be like, wow, I had $1 million sale last night? And you open your phone and or computer, or whatever you're looking, your bank account, or what does that feel like? And when you get to insource what it feels like and breathe in, whether it's an expansion or a contraction, whatever that is, and just fully
Mhm.
presence it, yeah, you're gonna collapse that subconscious mind, conscious mind into the focused alignment
Yes.
and the aligned action, and you're gonna start seeing the opportunity. That Raz brain is gonna start like showing you
At an
powerful
accelerated
and
rate. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
exactly what you said. The reason the SMT method, the reason I call it a dynamic vision is we all know about vision boards and things like that, right? And I've done a lot of them. I know they work great for a lot of people. They just didn't for me though, which is I'll talk about in a minute, but they didn't work really for me. And I had the clear image of what it was. I had illustrations and pictures and everything else on this thing. That's a powerful vision. To bring it to a level of being dynamic is exactly what you said is we accelerate that thing by adding feeling tone. What does it feel like to be that person at that level? What's it going to feel like? And then after we have the vision, then we start putting that vision on and we start identifying more and more with that vision. That's really why it's a start point to the SMT method.
Beautiful. I love it. I mean, yeah. So for just to recap, if you want to reach your goals faster, we got to have the dynamic vision, really accelerate it and stretch the vision to what's
Yeah.
possible. I do believe that you have to believe it's more than 50% possible. Or like you said, your clients were shutting down for a minute, right? They were like, "Oh, $3 million, that's not possible for me." So it wasn't believable for them. So I do I like to call it like a ladder. Like, let's keep climbing the ladder and like, okay, let's say my listeners are probably more at like, I want a $1 million goal in my business, right? Like, let's is that believable? Like, if you're tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if you agree or disagree. But if you're like, I want a $1 million year, right? But I don't believe it's possible at all. Like it's not even realistic. Like even a little bit, I feel the aligned action will not happen. But if you're like, let's say you're at zero, you're at $10,000 months, right? And you want to go to 20,000 or $30,000 months, it's like, but what is really believable for you, and then stretch it.
The gentleman who went from 300,000, we laid the number at $3 million. He I mean, a dynamic vision is something you're going, I don't know how the heck this is going to happen. Because the other thing
Mm-hmm.
we do is we plan smaller steps in the process. Now, remember, I own a
Yeah.
company that I named IFGT, which stands for It's Frickin' Go Time. So it's time to quit taking baby steps and things like that and really launch our life and get to that point to get more years living in that life. So that $3 million, he couldn't believe it as we were developing it and stuff like that. But then as we talked through it, as I started explaining what I see, as I started, he came to believe that I believed it for him before he believed it for himself. But that knowing I was believing it for him opened up that doorway for him to allow. And that's what happens with every one of my clients, the ones who have done the greatest strides are the people who stretched that beyond what they could imagine when we started. And we built into seeing that imagination and we built into seeing that happening. And by putting that vision on, by doing the different tools we do and things like that, all of a sudden now you get one success towards that. And man, it just lights up. Now you're on your way. So in the
And
SMT method, you look to get an early success towards that vision.
beautiful. I love it. And as a coach, right, I do coaching as well. And it's really the power of seeing what they're capable of and believing in them so that they can believe in themselves. And when I'm coaching, I I make sure that I can get them the result, which I'm sure you are the same way. It's like, no, it's go time. Let's go. I see you. You're at 300,000. No, 3 million. That's your jam. Let's go. Let's do it. We're getting there. Here's what you're gonna do. Here's a roadmap. Here's how we're gonna do it. But we're gonna clear up some shit on the way, right? We're gonna remove those blocks or use them as stepping stones to really get where we want to do because 80% of it is inner. It's inner, like clearing the inner stuff,
Higher,
getting
yeah,
out of your
yeah,
own
at least
way.
80%. Yes, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely higher. One of the things I do when I work with a business owner, somebody who's been this gentleman that had the $300,000 business went to 3 million in a year. When we first started working together, the first thing I had to do was get him to throttle back a little bit. And this is something else I want to mention about the SMT because anybody who's looking for assistance doing this and stuff, I've tried all of the one size fit all. I've tried the do what I, if you want what I have, do what I did type of things. And none of those ever worked for me. So in developing the SMT, and the way it worked for me is I had to come up with my unique pathway to it. And so the SMT method is designed for the uniqueness of every individual based on their desires, based on their programming, based on, all of that stuff. So every person has a unique journey throughout it based on them. So I don't give people A, B, and C to get to D. I take them on this journey and they get to identify what is their A, B, and C that gets them to D.
Yeah, because everyone's programming is different.
Yeah.
So we're all uniquely in our own wholeness and how we're going to
Yeah.
show up and right. And people have different ways of the way they like to work and show up and feel lit up, right? Like
Right.
if you're lit up, you're going to keep moving. I don't know if you know much about human design, but in human design, I'm a generator. And as a generator, if I'm lit up, I can keep working for hours and hours and hours and not eat. And it doesn't matter. I don't care because I'm so excited and I'm so lit up. And
Yes.
right. So some people are that way. And then we have manifesting generators who are like, I want to do all the things, but I want to do them faster and I want to find the shortcuts. And then we have the manifestors who just have the ideas, but they don't want to do the work. And then we have the projectors, who need naps and want to coach and go inward and really see you. And then there's reflectors, which is really rare, but they're kind of like a group. They kind of like hold a community together and reflect back everyone
Yeah.
else's kind of where they are. So just in human design alone, it's just a tool, but even in that, the way people want to show up is different. And so it is important to have a unique pathway using a framework. I think frameworks are great. I have my boss method, which sounds really similar to your method. It's like believing what's possible, then overcoming the blocks, right? And then having some strategy and then sustaining it, right? Keep it simple, right? Simple is sexy, like we talked about before.
Yeah.
So with your framework, okay, so we talked about the S. What does the S stand for? I know it's a dynamic vision, but is it subconscious mind?
Subconscious mindset training.
Okay.
So before I
what's
do
the
that, I want to
framework?
jump back to something because I was talking about that gentleman with the 300,000 3 million. One of the first things I had to do as we're developing that vision is I had to get him to slow down a little bit because one of the common programming things I see is we are, especially in the United States, is we are conditioned to massive actions, exhaustive efforts. You got to trade off your life to get things. If it's not working, put more effort into it and this and that and everything else. And what that does is it shuts off the flow of us seeing how things can come about easier and quicker as we do that. So I have to get people to throttle back, and developing that vision is a good time to do that. And then all of a sudden they start seeing an opportunity, because when I tell opportunities are coming by us all day long. But when we're doing 150 miles an hour, we don't see them because we're so locked in on that massive efforts and stuff. So that right there is a common programming shift that I have to make with my clients. We throttle back a little.
So I like to call it the dance, right? So it's do, do, do. Do, but we also need to be. We need to be. We need to be in our especially for like my women listeners, right? Like we need to be in the feminine and allow receiving to come in because especially the way we've been programming in our society, it's like, oh, they tell you how you're supposed to be. And like for women, it's like, be the mom, be this, be that, be the business
Yeah.
owner, and cook dinner,
Yep.
and clean. And it's like, wait, just be. So I like to call it doobie doobie do. Like, doobie doobie
That's the
do.
programming. Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
just
And you're
be.
right. We're human beings. We're not human
Yes.
doings. And we
Yes.
have to do things in order to achieve the results that we want to achieve. And so, but they don't have to be exhaustive or massive. They don't have to tear us down or pull us away from family or any of the things that, so many of us, and most of the people following those processes never achieve anywhere near what they truly desire to achieve
1,000%.
because of exhaustion, burnout, and things step in.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's not happening fast enough, what happens? People give up. They're like, well, this isn't meant for me. Or they try harder and it still doesn't work because there's
Yeah.
something subconsciously going on that is causing them not to feel worthy, right? It always comes back to like a worthiness issue of, oh, well, I'm not worthy, or I don't like this word, but deserving of XYZ. So therefore, I'm going to keep myself at that thermostat that doesn't let me go beyond it, and we
Yes.
can't
And
see
one of the
beyond the
things
line.
you just touched on something. I'm sorry, we're kind of jumping, but that was
Yeah,
perfect
yeah.
because one of
Yeah,
the
I
things we
know.
do right after I know I love it. Right after we get that dynamic vision, the very next thing we do is going to look at that vision. Is that vision worthy of me? Is it worthy of my time and my energy and my excitement and whatever else I put into it? Is it worthy of me? And that right there starts bumping on that programming right away and hard because we're not used to looking at things like that. We're used to looking, am I worthy of that? But that's not really the question we should be asking. Is it worthy of me? That's where we start making some big shifts and stuff. And then you asked about the next step. The next step after we got the vision, we're putting the vision out, we're moving into it, we're starting to see some things opening up and such. And then what we do is we move into developing systems of accelerating habits. And what it is, I talk to so many salespeople, and they say, well, this is what I have to do. These are the things I have to do. And you ever see somebody do a social media live and you can tell they can't stand doing it, Karen?
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
I feel bad for those people. I do. And I won't watch it. Now, you ever see somebody do a live and you can tell they're at home? That's their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So, what we do is we find areas that the client, through their uniqueness, what lights them up, what excites them, and then we find more time to do those things. Like, for instance, when I was in corporate, if I had to be in the office 2 days in a row, past 5 o'clock, I was ticked off. I felt cheated. I felt taken advantage of. I felt all this stuff and everything else. Now I come in here and I'll do all my stuff during the day. And sometimes I'll go home, have dinner, and the gym or something. I'll come back at 8 o'clock at night and I'll go in the studio next door to me and I'll do some filming. And I'll do it till 2, 3, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And when I get done, I'm so excited I can't sleep because it lights me up spending time doing that. And so when we start developing those systems of accelerating habits, we do it unique to the individual of what lights you up, what energizes you by doing it, not what drains you, which is a different question. We try to fight through the stuff that drains us to do it because somebody or something told us that's what we have to do in order to achieve what we want. But that's not true. So even in that, you can start seeing where the process becomes easier for my clients as they're going through this process. And as we start spending more time in those areas that light them up, they start achieving greater results from that, and they're actually doing things that are energizing them, not draining them.
And just to go a little like woo here, but it's vibrations, right? It's like when somebody's high vibe or you walk into a room, you can feel it if they're
You're attracted
high
to it.
vibe versus like drained or an energy suck. And you're like, well, I'm not going near them. And yeah,
Yes.
just being lit up. And another thing that it so for any of you guys that are listening and you're like, I don't know what lights me up. Like, I don't know. One way that you can really do this is, what are your values? Think of 5 values that are important to you. Like for me, it's connection, growth, abundance, love, contribution. Those things light me up. And when I start thinking, am I living my life with those values? And once you start identifying what your values are and recognizing if you're actually living, and personal and business can be separate. Like your business can have their own values, and so can your personal. Like, is your business in alignment with your values, and is your personal in alignment with your values? So, if you are struggling figuring out, I don't know, like, yeah, just think about what your values are. Like, it could be as simple as connection. Connection is a huge one for me. I'm so lit up just talking to you, learning about what you do, learning how you help people, and connecting with you. I hate technology. I love being on the podcast, but I hate all the back end stuff that comes with it, right? But am so lit up on this call. We're already over time, and I just want to keep talking to you. So to me, that's really important. And that's just kind of a tip that you guys can take from this is just start writing out your values and writing next to them every day when you go to bed. How did I live this value out today in my life? So just a quick tip there.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yeah, please.
Without doing something about the internal programming, and trying to set my values or trying to set what things excite me to do, and it could be two totally different things, because if I'm coming from the programming, it's going to guide my thinking one way. And really, as we start shifting that programming, it opens up the doorway for us to see all kinds of possibilities we don't see when we're coming from that programming. So really getting the programming shifts in place, and getting that new programming going is the ideal time, which is why it's laid out that way in the SMT, is the ideal time to then develop those systems of accelerating habits, because you're coming from your more authentic self, not programming that's no longer serving you.
And I think when we're also with the vision, just circle back one more thing. Is it fear of being broke, or is it I really want abundance, right? When we're looking at the different desires too, because a lot of times it's like, well, I want abundance because I don't want to be broke. And it's a different mentality when you're coming from like the negative, which is also a subconscious programming shift of like, well, what is this really about? Is it really a fear of being alone? Or is it like, I want a loving partner, right?
That's a perfect point. Because coming from that place in my own life and then helping my clients, first off, the fear is on both sides. The fear is going broke, losing everything, but also like, oh my God, who am I up here? Like, I wouldn't be able to handle that. I wouldn't be able to, things like that. So the fear is on both sides. There's a fear of failure and a fear of success that run simultaneous with each other. So there's that side of it. And so, but the other thing you talked about with that, with the vision and all that and stuff, and that side of it.
Let's recap this again. So we're at dynamic vision, and we're going to clear all of this patterns and programming and unworthiness. And another piece I like to add into all of that too, which I think is a missing piece for a lot of people, is acceptance. Is wait, like, let me accept and nourish this part of me so it can move through faster, and really feel in the worthiness and the essence of what it is that I'm capable of and what I want. So we're at this dynamic vision. We're kind of percolating over the blocks and the things that are kind of getting in our way. Now we're going to sit back and we're going to see the opportunities that start showing up for us so that we can take, and like you said, it doesn't have to be massive action, just aligned, right? Like an aligned action that feels good in my body, that feels easy, that lights me up. So it's like, oh, I'm doing this, and whether it it works or doesn't, it doesn't mean anything about me.
And when we get into that alignment, two of our mental, our most powerful mental capabilities that we have is our imagination, which were programmed as we're getting from child into schools and middle school and things like that to shut that down, right? And then the other one is our intuition, our connected with that alignment point. When we're in alignment, how things start showing up, how actions start, like all of a sudden we're driving and all of a sudden we're getting an idea of a great creative action to take. We take that act, and so it starts opening the doorway for that to happen more regularly. So instead of a coincidence being something that happens a couple times in life, we can live by the design of that happening over and over and over and over again. And the quickest way to grow in any area, the money, the quickest way to grow in any area is from a state of calm excitement. And when we're coming
Yes.
from that area, that's when we're in alignment. That's when we're coming from our imagination, intuition. All of that stuff is in alignment, working. The one thing I wanted to share is when you talked about that with people that want money, right? I come across a lot of clients and they go, "I want $5 million." Okay, why do you want $5 million? Because I don't ever want to have the fear of running out of money again. You'll never have that $5 million. Most people that somehow gain that money from that side all they do is shift it to now being afraid of losing that money. And I have a
Mhm.
good friend who built up to a multimillionaire and lived until he was 51 years old, died of a heart attack. And he had a continuous fear of something taking that money from him.
Getting out of that scarcity mindset.
It really is. And it's getting into that what's possible. Earlier on, you had mentioned about people when you start talking about like the 10 million to the 12.5 and stuff like that. And I'm going, I can't see that. Let me ask you, Karen, why can't they see that as a possibility?
Well, if we take all the BS out, I think if you really go to the deepest level, it's because they have worthiness. I think it's a worthiness. It comes down to worthiness.
In other words, another way to say that is they have programming that tells them they're not worthy of that. So it's more programming. It all comes back to that programming. So when we shift that programming and open the door, now we start instantly open the door to stretch that 12.5 and believe it's possible. As we start achieving that, all of a sudden the human condition is, I want more of this, man. This feels good. This is exciting. I want more. And it ends up putting them over $22 million a year in sales. So it's a self driver as we reprogram.
I want to give everyone listening, your listeners, my listeners, everyone, like permission to dream because
Yeah.
your subconscious mind does not know the difference between real and imagined. It does not know the difference. So the more that you start bringing that imagination back in, again, like those opportunities are going to keep showing up and they're going to show up faster and in more alignment and with so much beauty. But yeah, you have to nourish yourself and your worthiness of taking that and how do we reprogram, right? Like it all goes back to nourishing our younger self. I hate to say it, but there is a part of our younger self that was abandoned on the playground, that that punished us for speaking too loud, that, didn't follow directions and we got put in a corner. And those parts of us need compassion and love and nourishment so that we can clear the worthiness issues that are coming up.
And I thought that for a long time. And I've done a lot of inner child work. I've done mirror work. I've done deep breathing meditation, all these different avenues throughout my 3 decades of things I've tried and stuff. And those are really powerful. But honestly, I can help anybody achieve their vision based on 2 points of reference. Where exactly are you right now? It doesn't matter what's happened in your past, what you've had, not had, where you grew up, any of that. Where are you right now? And where do you want to be? And in that, the SMT method is, again, scientifically developed to bump into those patterns, paradigms, those ways of believing, all that stuff that's in the subconscious, so that we can then use some tools and shift that and then instantly start opening up that other door. So where traditional therapy, which I spent a lot of time in my 20s trying to learn this stuff and everything, and you want to go back to when you were 6 years old and somebody called you lazy, and now you spent so many years trying to get through that. I never really got healing from that. But once I got into the side of it and understood that was there, then we could go in and I could learn how to shift that out of it, regardless of where it came from. I could shift that and I could go on forward. And I tell you, I've done this same thing with people who were molested as children and things like that, and help them do perception shifting on that, where they could let go of taking the blame and the guilt and all the stuff that the ugly things that we tell ourselves about that, happening to us, why it's our fault, and let that go and move forward without the weight of those things holding us down anymore.
And to add, it's not necessarily like, yeah, healing. We all want to heal, but it's understanding the pattern, right? Because there's people who want to understand where the pattern came from. And when you
Mm-hmm.
go back and you do some of that younger self work or inner child work, you're like, oh, now I understand why I shut down when I'm in a fight with my husband, and I want to go to my room. And and again, it comes back. We're coming full circle, awareness, right? It's such
Yeah.
a huge piece. It's like, oh, I have the awareness of where that came from. Now I can understand to shift it, change the programming of it because now I even know it's there. Like you said in the beginning of the show, it's we don't even know we have the programming. And then it's like, once we have it, it's like,
Right.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
now we can change it.
Yeah, and I have a client with a little bit long story, but I'll tell you, I'll abbreviate it here. Is I met him, he's just mediocre in life. I mean, he's a husband, and his wife wore the pants in their family. He had a couple kids that were giving me money and stuff like that and everything. And but he talked so. I thought I was going to need a dictionary to talk with him. His speech was so, his vocabulary was so impressive. And then I found out like 3 weeks into working together that when he was in the sixth grade, I think it was fifth grade, that he switched schools, went to a brand new school. He had to do assessment testing and something, placement testing or whatever. And so the first day of school, everybody goes to a new class. He doesn't know anybody at school. He goes to the principal. His principal's going, man, you're in like 8th grade reading, college math, this and that. God, I'm really proud to have you here. Take this and go down to your teacher. He walks in the classroom. He gives it to his teacher. And she kind of goes through it, and she goes, oh, look at so and so, he's in the 8th grade reading college math, and starts berating this child in front of this class that he knew nobody, he'd never met any of those kids before, and then has him go sit down. And he spent that entire school year being picked on, ridiculed, and bullied. Karen, I met
Yeah.
this gentleman when he was like 51 years old, and he had upheld that promise all of those years. That was such a breakthrough when we shifted that, because and so that, to your point of that, sometimes you do need to go to that level. And in doing so, the guy would call me twice, 3 times a week, and these breakthroughs at work and this and that. And within 6 months, he went from like just at the bottom of, fearful of keeping his job, to whenever they hired somebody new, they had him work with him for like 3 months just to get them boosted up and going and stuff. And he called me one day on a Thursday, and he said, hey, I had to call you about this. And now I'm getting used to him calling. He goes, so my wife and I were talking about this weekend, what we're going to do and everything. And she told me the agenda. And he said, I was scared, but I said, no, I don't want to do that. And she just stopped and turned and looked at him. And he said, it really scared the bejesus out of him. And he said, I was hoping we could do this sometime in this weekend as a family. And she just looked at him and said, that was so hot.
Boundaries, right? That's a whole other topic for
That's that
another
breakthrough,
podcast.
though, right
But
there.
yeah, what a breakthrough. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And just being able to fear the fear and do it anyway.
And all those years, he had no recollection that he had actually shifted that in his life until it came up and we started diving into what's going on there. What's holding you up?
Beautiful.
What's the programming?
Beautiful. I love it. I love everything you're doing. I see you're changing lives. I hear you're changing lives. Where can people find you? Um, Feel free to share. I'll put everything in the show notes,
Okay.
but feel free to just share the easiest way for people to find you, to work with you, to contact you. Where do you hang out the most?
So I got the website and stuff, and we'll put that in there because it's my name and it's kind of a long name. But the easiest way for people to get a hold of me, I love talking about this. I love serving and helping others open up to greater possibilities than they may think are possible, or understand how the struggle is part of the solution and things like that. So anybody can schedule a quick call with me at coachwithjoey.com and schedule a time. It's not a sales call at all. The intent of that conversation is to serve. So if something
Beautiful.
we've talked about comes up and there's questions about, or you're stuck on something, or something doesn't make sense, whatever it is, I love talking about this stuff. It's my life.
Yeah, I feel your passion and I appreciate you so much. So before we close down today, if there's one tip that you could tell our listeners that they can take away with them today to start changing their life in the next
Yes.
24 hours, what would it be?
What do you really want out of this life experience? So often we never even look at that. I meet so many people and I go, what do you want out of life? And they go, I don't know. What do you want out of this life experience? Every day we live is another day we don't get to repeat. It's gone. It's over. We don't get to go back to it and stuff. We have a number of days that we're on this planet. What do you really want to experience? Put all the BS stuff down and everything else. What do you want to experience in your life? Whether you think it's possible or not, what is it that you'd love to experience? That question has taken me from you're meant to work with your hands your whole life, blue collar struggle and everything else, through into corporate America, up to a vice president of sales, through college educations, through resigning from there and walking away to do what I do today and impacting 700 plus lives over the past decade and doing what I do and continuing to grow in that area. It's only because before I even thought it was even possible for me, I had this thing come from my heart that I want to spend my life inspiring, motivating people to live better lives. I believed in my heart before I believed it in my surroundings. Is people don't have to live the way my parents did. You don't have to live in struggle and lack and things like that. And everything doesn't have to be exhausting. But they didn't have these tools. And I want my life to leave a mark on other people's lives that you can have whatever you want. You just got to go through some areas of adjusting yourself to what you want. Not adjusting what you want to minuscule scraps because you think that's all available to you.
Yeah, no more breadcrumbs. It's time to go big and go for it.
Freaking go time.
It's freaking go time. Thank you, Joey, so much. This was such a lovely conversation. I'm so excited to connect with you, and I hope to have you back on the show in the future.
I really enjoyed this. This has made my day.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.